Hello, hello, hello. We are so excited to bring you our next sports focus panel about unlocking the human potential. So, without further ado, he is not a stranger to you if you were here in the last panel, Adam Phillips.
Am I going to wear out my welcome here by doing two panels in a row? Hopefully not. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll see. You have to say that, though. Thank you guys for joining us for this one, too. This is going to be a lot of fun. Great first panel. Really appreciate the guests. If I can invite my new panelists up, come on. I'm going to say their names. Matt Curtin, the president of the NFL Players Association. NFL Players, Inc. as well, right? Is it both? Is it both?
Take whatever you want to give me.
All right, he's president of something, of a lot of things. Mike North, CEO and co-founder of ShiftWave. And what's up, Marcus? How you doing, man? Marcus Colson. This guy's a champion. Sorry, I'll say that into the mic. This guy's a champion, and he started Champion Venture Partners as well, which is about to be a huge business. You're going to love learning about that as well. Please welcome our panelists. As you could see, actually, from what we did in the last panel, a lot of, obviously, sports is people, right? And it's an activity connected to folks, but it's people operating at an incredibly high level and doing something that essentially, and I think I used this analogy before, like Marcus has lived on another planet for most people. He lived on planet NFL. And we all get to visit there. We get to see it through a telescope on our, TV screens, but he's been there. He's been to the planet. Even he had to come back eventually, but, he got to live there and win a championship on that planet, by the way. But it's really about human performance under, in some ways, really extreme conditions, but really like it's also like high-level stress, high-level performance, being able to do both at the same time. A lot of us can hit free throws when no one's, playing defense, but in the middle of a game, it's hard to hit them. So we want to talk about unlocking human potential. And really, there's kind of two places where this, I think, where operates really, we can see it kind of working itself out. One is kind of special forces military, and the other is high-level athletes. So let's talk about that today. All right. We're definitely going to be talking to, I think, the right people as well. How are athletes helping to shape the technologies that really maximize these performances? And I think you're going to see a story here today with the NFLPA and then ShiftWave and then connecting that to human potential that really illustrates that. And then obviously it coming into full culmination with Marcus and the way he's operating at another high level. He's essentially visiting a new alien planet by running a venture fund, which is very cool. We'll hear about. But let's start with Matt Curtin. I'm gonna read the thing because I don't know all of your titles, but you're president. You're president of everything I'm about to say. Okay, NFL Players, Inc. Of course, helping redefine how athletes drive business growth and innovation through the NFL Players Association. Really appreciate the partnership of the NFL Players Association based right here in DC and working with current and former NFL players, again, who have been to that planet. We're going to talk to Mike North, the CEO, co-founder of ShiftWave, which is a breakthrough recovery, and actually right over there, right? Okay, so not far. If you have not visited the ShiftWave table, you got to get to ShiftWave. A breakthrough recovery system that helps elite athletes and entrepreneurs reach peak performance. And of course, Marcus, we talked about champion winning. He was the Saints too. By the way, I lived, I think I told you when we met in New Orleans, I lived in New Orleans for a while. So as a, he was a Saint when he was, would you count yourself among the top 10 Saints, right? You're probably the most.
I would hope so.
Okay, I think you definitely are, right? Like, so. Okay, in my book, as a former New Orleans kid, he's definitely one of the top 10 for sure. I didn't mean to say not top 5. You might be top 5 too, but I'm just saying, you're the man. Okay, so let's talk to Matt. You obviously have a unique vantage point from where you are. So you guys work with NFL players who are current and former, and again, folks who have been to that planet. Talk to me on how you see not only kind of the human potential sort of going from early on in a career to late in a career, which would be interesting and an interesting arc, but then how you guys try to help folks maximize that. So guys that come in doing one thing at an incredibly high level or multiple things within that one genre at an incredibly high level, how do you help them try to maximize that for other things?
Sure, and maybe I'll start with a little bit of what NFL Players Inc. is
That's
and
great.
how we got here, right? So
Thank
the NFL Players Association is obviously a union that represents our players' collective bargaining interests and their benefit. NFL Players Inc. is the monetization arm, the business arm of the union, which helps fund our activities and does licensing and marketing for NFL players, primarily in group contexts. But at the core of what we are is a service organization. We view these guys as our guys. We feel a passion to serve them and to help them achieve all their goals, particularly off the field in Players Inc. Most of what we're doing on the other side of the house is on the field and post-career. A lot of what we're doing is helping them to monetize their brands, off the field. This started as group licensing and promotion, sponsorship. But as everyone has seen, the athlete as his own brand, right, or her own brand, and their own channels and their own voice has become amplified, and our organization has started to evolve to help with that. And one of the key themes around that is equity and partnership with great companies, right? We don't try to be all things to, the entire ecosystem, right? We have our core mission of serving our players and their interests, but you have to even more define it beyond that. And so we think about health and safety, technology, wearables as areas where we have expertise, and then also some things in the consumer space where we have over 75 licensees. We have major partners that use our IP to help sell products, which obviously benefits the union and our players. And so we work with them as well. But I think one of the key trends that we have seen is and this was mentioned in the last panel, the athlete is more than just an endorser, right? Particularly as you talk about some of the segments that I mentioned around health and performance, awareness, and Michael talked a little bit about his specific product, which is fantastic. The athlete as a core consumer and an advocate because of the use and the utility that they get out of it, right? And being involved not just as I'm going to give you a social post or you can put my name on it, right? I want to be involved in the design, the improvement, and have some say in how you position it because I'm actually a user and I've got a pretty good story to tell and people want to hear from me.
Right. And it's so funny that thank you for that, because it's so funny we overlooked that for so long. Like you think about an athlete as essentially a super user. And in this space, when you're looking to build a business, what you want is super users. You want people who are going to take the thing and they're going to use it all the way. And they're going to press all the buttons. They're going to go through all the settings and they're going to take it till it breaks. So it's so funny that, it kind of took a while for people to kind of wake up to that. I love that you guys are waking up to that. We're all waking up to that as athletes kind of get more and more involved on this side. Talk to me on the equity piece. As the NFL Players Association starts to, and the Players Inc. starts to really have those conversations, when does that start to happen? Like, I bet it didn't happen till late in their career. Are you seeing it happen earlier and earlier in the career of the athletes now?
Yeah, I'd say, and then the other panel touched on this a little bit too, when Marquise and I were in college and he was playing sports, I was drinking, right? Like you weren't able to participate in NIL. So you got to the league and you were excited at the first time, okay, now I can be a part of monetizing all this. Right. These guys are building their brands. My son was following Bronny James when he was a freshman in high school, right, on social media, right? And so there's a brand and an audience that these people generate, these athletes generate at a very early age. And so they're thinking about things much at an earlier stage and in a more sophisticated way than in the past, which is great because they're able to capture more value, right? These careers are finite, fame is finite, right? And so, you want to be able to monetize that and to take advantage of it when the opportunities present themselves. But I think the one thing we have noticed is the desire for, and Sophie mentioned this in the previous panel, having a player on the cap table, right? Of having the NFLPA or having any of our other partners that do similar things for players involved, and to be able to market that as, right now sports is hot. Everybody wants to touch sports. Everybody wants to be around sports because there's just so much growth and there's so much zeitgeist from the culture around it. And I think that point in time has led to people saying, and Shaq would be a great example of this, right? Shaq was very early on, if I want to be part of it, I want equity and I want to be a long-term partner, not just a transactional marketer.
Mm-hmm. And Shaq's such a good example, too, because does anybody not know who Shaq is? Okay, everybody knows who Shaq is. And he takes advantage of that, right? Like, his size is one of his defining features.
Size and personality.
Size and personality. And he uses them both so effectively. And he shows up large and like with a big smile everywhere he goes. And I'm sure, like in his private moments, he's probably not always jovial, but in public, like he shows up so well like that. And he was so, like, you're dead on. He was so good about the equity piece early on. And now I think he owns what, like 26 Papa John's and a million Pepsi distributions. Like, the guy is super smart about this. How are you guys cultivating these as the Players Association, Players Inc.? How are you cultivating more of these opportunities to kind of bring to the players?
Yeah, look, I'd say our main focus as a union is to support all of our members, right? And so we take equity stakes in companies who want to partner with us in a lot of the sectors that we mentioned. And then we facilitate arrangements for our players to do direct deals with all of our partners and licensees. And a lot of that is where it leads into opportunities for the player beyond just a straight check for a post or an appearance. I think one of the things that we are good at and trying to get even better at is knowing our players, right? It's hard to, when you're a brand that's an official partner of the NFL or someone who wants to do something with NFL players and you're starting from zero, you sort of have a view of a guy from how you may see them perceived in the media. You don't know how they are to work with. You may not even be able to get to them. And we try and be a clearinghouse of thinking about knowing what our players are interested in, being experts on that, knowing what they're good at, knowing who's good to work with, knowing where people's interests lie, so that we can help matchmake to make it a win-win for the sponsor or brand and the player. And what we're trying to do is create long-term relationships. We don't want to be transactional. Too many things in life are transactional. And a lot of sports, unfortunately, is transactional, right? It has to be because it's competitive, right? But we want these relationships to be more enduring than that.
Yeah, and super important role to play, essentially as a kind of vetter or gatekeeper of the opportunities to make sure they're real opportunities.
Sure.
And that there's a real future there for the athletes. Yeah, that's great. And that's a great sort of stepping stone for moving to kind of the shift wave story. Mike, I'd be interested to have you sort of talk about, it sounded like the initial relationship between the NFL Players Association and Shift Wave started to happen kind of organically. Can you talk a little bit about how that launched and a little bit too about the tech as well?
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mike, talk about ShiftWave.
Yeah. Maybe just a quick note on what ShiftWave is if you haven't heard about it. The easiest way to explain it is just imagine having the easy button, the easy reset button for both your body and your mind. So if your body's in pain, you can sit down in this chair. It has 18 different transducers, puts high power vibrations into your body, totally regulates your nervous system. In the process, takes away the pain in the body, and then it helps take away the stress of the mind. So just imagine having that button in your life where you're taking stress out of the equation, and then you're replacing it things with sleep and focus. So that's just a very high level, and the way it's doing it is by causing this internal regulation through the body, through the nervous system that cascades up into the mind. And and so it's really quite revolutionary, the technology. It's really potent. And in the wellness market, it's really loud and noisy. And so as a strategy, as a company, said, well, let's just go and prove this technology where results absolutely matter, where they wouldn't use it unless it produced the results they desired. So we started with the Special Forces, thinking this was a good idea, so a lot of development and design for them. Turns out the military is a little bit slow moving and a little bit hierarchical. And
wait, government is slow moving, really?
And I'm, at the time I had a man bun and a beard and lived in California and didn't make the inroads. And so then we looked around and like, well, where else do results absolutely matter? And we realized that professional sports is that. And in professional sports, NFL is king. And these guys, and actually they are maybe even more brutal than the Special Forces, right? They're going to battle once a week. They're totally, multiple car wrecks every week there. But they're also under the spotlight, the performance spotlight. And you look what's happening with social media and everything, the amount of stress that piles on top of them is huge. And we said, oh, this is a great opportunity to go prove ourselves. And so we started working there and then just found this very natural alignment with the NFLPA because that's their mission too, is to help their players. So we just started teaming up on doing it and then formed a beautiful partnership out of that.
Yeah, I love that. And this relates actually to one of the questions in the other panel too, was sort of how do I get connected to the right people or the right advisors or whatever. You guys essentially just started doing the work, right? I mean, you just started helping the people that needed help.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way. Our mission is to help people, and they have people they want to help. And so we just naturally aligned on that mission. And we were able to get in very quickly and show that we could get results. And it actually some players started getting it. And that created a little bit of noise that cascaded up and got great results. So said, oh, we should take a look at this, and then we should start doing some things together, and it just started working.
Well, and I think it was a positive feedback loop too, as the guys had interaction with it and great response, and they could give feedback in, and we were able to work to get it covered under HRA, so it would be a reimbursable expense, which then increased adoption, and so you create a positive feedback loop to build engagement and response.
Which I love because, both of the missions align with real people. Like, you have actual people who are playing this sport. It's not in the abstract that there are players. There's Marcus, there he is. He's a man who plays a sport and he wants to perform at a high level, but he also may need some help sometimes. And so you can prove that it works. You guys both show that mission is aligned. I love that. This also leads to the concept of like an athlete's plus, right? Like we're not dealing with automatons. It's not robots who are going out there to play the game. These are people who are going out to do, and then they want to perform at a high level too, but they may need some things to kind of help them get there as well. And you guys are helping to facilitate that, right?
Yeah, that's something that we found is these are people. They have families, right? And you go out and you be a gladiator at maximum intensity in a extremely violent sport, and then you need to just downregulate and go home and be a dad, a husband. That's a big ask right there, and go to sleep. And so just giving them a tool where they're recovering their system, but they can downregulate. And so it's like they can just flip to the next chapter, and now they can just clear away the sport, go home, be dad, be a husband, be present, get some good sleep. Oh, and by the way, it works the other way too. Turns out family life isn't always that relaxing either. And so when they show up for practice or for a game, now they can flip that chapter as well. They can just reset, put the family behind, and focus on their sport.
My version of this was sometimes sitting in the driveway before I went in when I had 3 little kids instead of 3. I'm just sitting there for give me 5 minutes before I go inside. That was my downregulator. It wasn't quite as bad as playing in the NFL. But I love the idea too that you were giving it's almost like mental performance, right? Like you're talking about how do I get the most out of this moment? I'm trying to perform. I'm trying to be the best player. Then I'm trying to be the best dad, or I'm trying to be the best wife or husband, whatever it is. You're trying to mental performance. ShiftWave is trying to help that person sort of accomplish their goal. And so you're really partnering as you move towards that, right? Is that the idea?
Absolutely. And there's just been this huge shift over the last 3 years that is just so good for society. 3 years ago, it was the guy putting his hand up talking about mental health issues. And that was like a big thing for them to do. And we were like, oh, great, we can help them. But in these 3 years, it's just totally transformed to it's all about mental performance. You can only train so much. You can only train this body so much to get to this level. But what takes you to be a truly elite athlete is now that mental performance on top of it. And now we really want to help everyone. And so the kids are seeing this as like, oh, I don't need to just train my body. I need to train my mind as well. And it just shifts the whole conversation from you have a mental health problem to you have a mental performance opportunity.
I love that. Marcus, you wanted to be elite at everything you did, obviously. You were a champion in the NFL, and now you're an elite investor as well. You're putting I think a defining investment firm on the map, and I think the model's really, really cool. Talk to me about what's motivating you that way? Do you take anything from your playing days into what you're doing now? Talk to me on that, or talk to them on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it syncs up really well with what these two gentlemen talked about. Performance is holistic, and I think each and every one of us, we roll out of bed every morning and we want to perform at our optimal level, and it doesn't matter what it is that we're doing. We want to perform at the highest level, and I think. When you come from a world like professional sports, you know what that looks like because you're surrounded by it. And that transition out of sport, you kind of got to figure out how to recreate that same locker room and that same environment around you that brings the best performance out of you. And, I think a lot of what we've been able to build and the thesis around what we built at Champion Venture Partners, specifically Champion Fund, is kind of rooted in that philosophy. I've been around the investment space for 15 years now. Really got my kind of carved my teeth out working with the NFLPI with the One Team Collective Initiative way back when. But in this new iteration of this investment journey, it's been about surrounding myself with people that have been operators and have been they've been tactical players in the space. Because I think what we've seen over time is that the traditional VC community that is rooted in Silicon Valley, rooted in these 2 or 3 different pockets around the country, is now becoming more dispersed and more democratized around the country. And I think a lot of what comes with that ability to kind of disperse is you're starting to see more perspectives. You're starting to see different types of people, different industries that come online. And I think we're just in a really unique space and time where sports is the sexy investment vehicle. Sports is a sexy asset class that's becoming a traditional asset, a mainstream asset class, at the same time when every investor is looking for alpha in their portfolio. You're seeing these macro tailwinds that, people don't want to just be in the stock market. People don't want to just be in the NASDAQ or the S&P. People are looking for alternative investment opportunities. And we saw a really unique opportunity to marry sports and that appetite for alternatives in creating this vehicle. So really kind of to get back to your question, the performance and the internal standard of performance is really, I think when it's rooted in something higher than yourself, it makes it easier to aspire to it. And that's really what Champion Venture Partners and Champion Fund has done for me personally and our team is there's this bigger, broader mission to bring alternative investments to a different type of investor that's really not been spoken to before, has really not had access to it before. And it just so happens to be in an asset class that's coming of age, one that's about as ubiquitous as it gets. Sports probably touches every one of our lives in some form or fashion, whether you're a fan, a former player, an old guy like myself, that now has kids playing youth sports. Sports is as ubiquitous as it gets. So the ability to open up that asset class for everybody to invest in is that North Star that's kind of helping me unlock that higher level of performance in myself again.
I love that. And I want to jump off 2 words you said, aspire to, because I think there is, again, I think it's unique to, it's not unique only to sports, but it's unique to people who can perform at a high level, like special forces or people who, are in the NFL or the NBA or even like, get pretty high up in college athletics or something. They know how to pursue a goal. They know how to like catch sight of something and run towards it. And what you're doing is unique. Like it's not, I work primarily in venture now, but mixed asset, hearing about your model was one of the things that convinced me mixed asset is today. It's not tomorrow, it's today. And you're doing it. And you aspired to it, meaning you caught the vision, but then you also created something. Like you guys essentially created a new model. Like venture has a rhythm. PE has a rhythm. Essentially what you're doing is both. And it's kind of a mixed version. Can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you see a need, feel a need. Like that's how you function as an NFL player, right? I came in the league as this guy that was a superstar on my college team, and you got to go back, you got to go into the locker room and start from scratch. You got to reinvent yourself. And I think those lessons and that mentality never leaves you. And through my journey, through that 15-year journey that I talked about, going through VC, a lot of those conversations were rooted in the same thing. Matt kind of touched on it. This evolution from, seeing the player as only an influencer or as an endorser with equity has started to shift. But I came of age right smack dab in the middle of it. So when you just keep, walking into these rooms as a typecast, and it just feels like you're put into this box, when you get the opportunity to kind of break the walls open and open that box up, that's really the thing that's motivating me and motivating us is, you mentioned, creating something new. That's not what we set out to do. We set out to solve a problem that was very acute for ourselves, knowing that it was very acute for different types of investors that are looking for access. So I think that mentality as a player that constantly has to reinvent myself. I came in as a 22-year-old rookie, could physically do anything in the world that I wanted to. By the time I retired at 32, my body just couldn't do the same things, but the level of performance that's expected of you doesn't change. So what you figure out is, I've got to figure out another path to get to that level of performance. And I think what we've built at Champion Venture Partners is just a different iteration of that same journey, to where if ultimately the goal is access, ultimately the goal is diversified pathways to building wealth, then we just got to figure out a new pathway to get there.
I love that. And that's why you want athletes as founders and you want to invest in them as founders, finding real solutions to real problems for real people who will pay for it. And that's a real business. Matt, you got to love that. As I mean, these are both examples not only of a product that is working really well alongside you with the, making the players' lives better day by day, but then also seeing obviously an example of one of your successful, one of the successful graduates of the NFL going on and being elite at something else. Can you talk about like what's next for the NFLPA? How are you guys building on the success? How can we help? Like, how can this community get involved? And maybe we'll take one or two questions, hopefully.
Yeah, sure. Look, I guess I'd say at a high level, we're trying to say this a lot, but beyond the licensing, sponsorship, marketing stuff, and we're trying to lean into what I've said a few times. We are a service organization, and so helping our players monetize off the field isn't just from jersey sales, trading cards, video games, or the promotional appearance with an NFL partner. It can be about helping them build their podcast. It can be about helping them make introductions to people that they can partner with. It can help about educating them around a lot of the things that Marcus has done, right, around investment. And so we're spending a lot of time, we're reimagining our innovation conference, which we call Pitch Day, that we do with Super Bowl. We're putting time and effort into that. We're thinking about other initiatives to get more opportunities and frankly, more knowledge and education to our players and to create more of a broader network that will allow them to just have more access and to make it easier for people to get to them, right? I think right now, sometimes the player feels so far away because they are up on another planet, to borrow your analogy, right? And we want to be a bridge to help bring more opportunities to them by making it easier for people to approach them, hopefully through us.
Love that. Excellent. I think we maybe have time for one or two. One. We're going to go with one because I am late. One question? Thank you.
Oh, okay. Hey, I appreciate everything y'all do for work and what y'all achieved, and this is why I'd love for y'all to answer this question. What opportunities are y'all seeing that's like very exciting for y'all and the players? Is cannabis potentially one of them? And the reason I ask that side note is I am a founder in that space. I've gone off of thousands of milligrams of like prescriptions. I got hit by a construction vehicle, my car and myself got hit by a construction vehicle like 10 years ago. So everything that y'all do, and I love that you talked about being more integrated into these things because I've seen that play in cannabis. So I'd love to see what's like, what is the next thing that's really allowing y'all to be more involved and not just like an influencer or an equity partner, right? Because for me, that's like one thing I would love for more players to talk about, the health and wellness aspect that hasn't been scratched in our space. So I say, what's exciting for y'all?
Yeah, maybe I'll start. Look, I'd say I don't have any firsthand knowledge, but I'm comfortable saying I think our players are familiar with cannabis. It is a substance that, we, through our partnership with the league, we do have rules around what active players can endorse, right? But we do have players in a former space that have made a lot of investments in that sector, right? And so what I would say is what the NFL considers a vice category, if you see something around, liquor, sports gambling, cannabis is characterized that way. That's an area where current players are not actively endorsing or getting involved with brand name investments. But our former players absolutely can, and we definitely help facilitate those deals.
We're seeing a lot of players that struggle with sleep and pain and are looking for alternatives to that. But the real trend that I've been seeing is that they're looking for where they don't ingest anything to do it, looking for much more of the sauna, cold plunge, shift wave, red light therapy. They're really looking into this kind of biohacking ecosystem to find solutions that can be additive in other ways, but then at the same time could mitigate some of the issues that they're having.
Yeah, just to piggyback on these guys, from a health and wellness perspective, definitely holistic. I think we've, as a player myself, I lived through the phase where it was just pop pills. Whether it was anti-inflammatories, it was pain medicine. And I think just seeing what's happened to guys on the back end of that, I think this new generation is really laser focused on holistic wellness. But I think globally, I'm excited about seeing guys that have ideas, athletes that have ideas that are able to find those kind of tap into their own network and tap into their own distribution channels to get their own ideas out into the world. I think that I've always thought that the athlete journey and the entrepreneur journey, the mindset and what it takes to get from point A to point B is literally two sides of the same coin. So to be able to see athletes get into a space where they have these ideas that might even exist outside of the world of sports, but they're able to get them into the market and see adoption and see, that process and that iteration process, it's exciting to me as a former player.
And we have time for one last question. I believe there was one person over here that had a question. Awesome.
I guess I'm here kind of representing two of my friends' companies. The first one, the Big Man Foundation, it helps athletic coaches with crises and crisis management. So I would love to talk to some of you all afterwards. But the other startup is just finished their seed round, and they're in the name, image, likeness space, and they have a contract with the Cowboys right now, and they do like pose with. But I was just curious your guys' thoughts of the future for name, image, and likeness.
Any NIL thoughts?
We spent a lot of time talking about it, right? I think there's so many dimensions to that. I think in general, players are more protective and responsible and thoughtful around their NRL than they have ever been, and that is not going to change, right? It's all the themes we talked about around individual brand and the sustainability and longevity of that. So that is something that is absolutely here to stay. I think the challenges that everyone is facing, whether it's Solaire or whatever it is how do you protect IP in an AI environment? I think, in the past, we've thought a lot about how do you protect IP from counterfeiting, right? And that's never perfect, but we think we have that almost kind of solved, or at least in a box. Now you got a whole nother set of, things to think about. And I think that will be obviously like a big challenge. I also think one thing you're seeing is there's more consolidators of NIL than ever before, right? Whether it's, people like Authentic Brands or others that are going out and trying to consolidate to get to scale and have a more fulsome offering of IP. You see a little bit with the collectives, right, down at the college level. And then the last thing I think that we are spending a lot of time on as an organization more broadly is, the group licensing rules of the road are pretty much set in professional sports, but it's the wild, wild west down at the college and the high school level, right? So we heard mentioned in the other panel, the Ohio bill, that's looking to protect athletes and put some parameters around the duration and tenor in terms of some of the deals that those athletes will be permitted to sign within that state. We think it's unlikely that there will be federal legislation or anything from a national organization that would set this standard in the near term. So a lot of these things are going to happen on a state-by-state level in state legislatures. And so that's arguably good because you get more experimentation. You can try different things and different perspectives can be fit for different people in different places. And that's always a good thing. But it's also going to be, regulatory, uncertainty depending upon where you are, right? So that's the environment I think we're in right now that we're trying to navigate.
Good.
I don't have much to say about NIL, except we did do one NIL deal, and that was with J.J. McCarthy, his senior year at University of Michigan. He had a pretty good year, as you all know. And it's funny, we didn't even ask for any of the things we asked for in the NIL deal, because we just said, you know what, what's most important is J.J., his performance and what he does. And he was supposed to be posting all this stuff, and we just said, don't even worry about it. You focus on the game, you do what you need to do. And he talked to him at the end of the season, found out he was using it before every game, after every game, before bed every night. Oh, wow. It was a tool in his arsenal. He thanked us so much, and just the relationship's grown. And now he's an investor in the company. He's using it, and it's just beautiful. And it's I think you need to align along this mission of really wanting to help the person. And we're also finding they really want to help other people. So these players, they have foundations, they have people they care about. And so being able to reach into that. And so I think it's easy to get caught up in all the deals and all the money and everything like that. But I think this younger generation, and actually even the players that are coming out and retiring, they have causes they really care about. And they want to be involved in helping those.
Marcus, can you touch quickly on NIL as an investment? Because I think that's an interesting, since it's so exciting, people get all excited about it. Think about it as an investor, though, like give them the benefit of your wisdom there, because I think there's some unique aspects.
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at NIL, specifically in the college space from an investor perspective, it is conceptually, I love what NIL represents. In reality, I hate the way it's implemented. Because ultimately it takes a world that sharks existed in the professional ranks, and it allows them to go downstream with less regulation, with a population that's less educated, and talking to families that have no idea what the business side of sports looks like. So from an investor standpoint, anything that I would look at, anything that we would look at, would have to have a strong skew towards education. Because otherwise, you become another marketplace that, while there might be good deals on there for today, a lot of times you'll see these younger players don't know the terms that they're signing up for, don't have people in their ecosystem to educate them around those terms, and you find yourself in situations where your name, image, and likeness is tied up in exclusive categories for way longer than it should be. And in a world where more often than not, these athletes are going to have 4 years to make money off of their name, image, and likeness in a sports perspective. If you're tied up in these deals that don't allow you to go and monetize that and maximize that, then you have no idea that you're shooting yourself in the foot. So conceptually, I love it. The way that it's been rolled out and implemented has been very short-sighted, in my opinion. And there has to be a whole lot more education around what people are actually signing, what people's, how long those licenses and what they actually mean from a category standpoint. For me to take a serious look at them.
Sorry, I could not resist that because I agree 100%. And we had that when we talked about the collective last time, and the dichotomy between like what it seems like it could be and what it actually is kind of in the moment is great. Thank you. Honor and a privilege. Matt, Mike, Marcus, please give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Really, really wonderful. Thank you.
Awesome. And before we let the panel go, I want all of us to give a special shout out to Adam, who was busy playing excellent moderator, but didn't really get to talk about what he's doing to help sports innovators around the world. He's also one of the most loveliest people we know locally, so definitely make some time to go and chat with Adam too. Yes, thank you.